Hello, everyone. Welcome to the technical panel. Today, we are going to discuss how machine learning helps Pinterest to move to our next era by building a thriving ecosystem for inspiration creation. My name is Bichong Chen. I am a senior machine learning architect responsible for machine learning technology used in our recommender systems, discovery systems, and also our content ecosystems. Today, we have an excellent panel of seasoned machine learning experts here. I will let our panelists introduce themselves. Probably can start with Xiaofang.
Hi, everyone. My name is Xiaofang. I'm a software engineer in the ads quality team. I joined Pinterest about 8 years ago. Before that, I worked for Amazon for 5 years. In the past 6 years or so, I have been working at machine learning, mostly at Pinterest. Some of the projects I worked include migrating the home feed ranking models from GPT tree-based model to deep neural net-based model architecture, applying embedding-based retrieval techniques to ads retrieval using two-tower model architecture, and applying transformer-based sequence modeling to better predict the user engagement for our ads ranking models. Next, Jay, do you want to go next?
Sure. My name is Jay Adams. I've only been at Pinterest about 1.5 years, but I've been working on deep neural networks for recommendation systems for about 8 years now. So I guess I came to Pinterest because I like the fact that it's a kind of a small company, so you can come here and make a big impact. But even though we're small, it feels to me like we really punch above our weight when it comes to ML technology. I think some of the image understanding technology and certainly the graph convolutional network technology is some of the best anywhere. So even though we're small, there's some really exciting technology here. And I've learned a lot, actually, even in the 1.5 years that I've been here. So let's see. How about next we go to Dylan?
Thanks, Jay. My name is Dylan. I'm the engineering manager at the HomeFeed team. I'm probably the shortest tenure among all. I have been here just 10 months. Before Pinterest, I was an engineering manager at LinkedIn. So I'm very passionate about using machine learning technology to drive users day-to-day and help them have a great journey at Pinterest. My team has helped build a lot of great products at Pinterest. So thank you so much, and good to be here. Next, I'm going to pass it to Rajat.
Thanks, Dylan. My name is Rajat Rana. I'm the engineering manager for search and shopping at Pinterest. I've been here for 4 years. During that time, I've worked on search, recommendations, shopping. And one thing I'd say is that relative to other companies I worked at, people come to Pinterest with open-ended exploration intent, and that makes working on search and recommendations particularly interesting.
Okay, so I will be moderating the discussion, and if any of you have a question, please don't hesitate to put your question in the chat, and we will leave about 10 minutes to answer your question. The topic for today's discussion is how machine learning helps Pinterest to build a thriving ecosystem for inspiration creation. If you look at the past decade, Pinterest has been a place where people find inspiration from images that other people saved from the web. However, people are not only inspired by great content, but probably more importantly, by the people who create those inspirational contents. Those creators are the source of inspiration. And we believe connecting users to the source of inspiration can provide great value for our users. So the next era of Pinterest is about building a content marketplace in which consumers demand inspirational content that can help them to create a life they love, while the creators supply such inspirational content to give every consumer a strong reason to visit Pinterest every day. For creators, we need to provide them with great tools for creating high quality content and reaching their audiences, and incentivize them to continuously create engaging content. Right? For consumers, we need to provide them with super relevant, super personalized recommendations, and also guided search experience, and connect them to the creators who can inspire them. So my first question for our panelist is, how does machine learning help consumers to discover creators and also their inspirational content? And also how machine learning help creators to reach out to their audiences? Who want to start?
Yeah, I'll take that one. So yeah, I think it starts with having a good representation of our content, and our content, our users, and our creators. And we heard about some of that earlier this afternoon from Rex, who talked about visual embedding, and Andrew, who talked about embeddings we have for our users and our WebPen content. But for this new ecosystem, I think we've also had to build representations of creators, users, and idea pins. And so for idea pins, one thing Andrew didn't talk about this afternoon was we have this new model that can take all of the features of the idea pin, whether it's audio and text and all the various video and images, and produce a representation of that content that lets us predict who will engage with that content even before we've seen any engagement. So that's really exciting, because now we can start recommending content from the minute it's created. For users, Andrew talked about this Pinner Sage model. That's the one that looks at the things that the user's done in the past and predicts what they're going to do in the future. And I think that model is really exciting because it doesn't rely on any sort of profile or any kind of categorization that we do. It just learns naturally that maybe if somebody's interested in a certain kind of clothing style, that predicts what kind of furniture style they'll be interested in. And then we also have models of our creators that model not just the kind of content they create, but sort of their take on that content, and helps us predict which of our users will be interested in that creator. So that helps us not only recommend that creator's content, but we can also recommend the creator directly to the user. And I think the other, so this is, we kind of have this foundation of these really good representations of users, creators, and idea pins. And so we can put all those together in our, I work on the home feed recommendation area. And so I think we have, just an excellent recommendation stack for the home feed. We have retrieval, lightweight scoring, and ranking. And all these are built from the ground up to be very similar and well aligned. So all have access to the same signals. And because of that, we really maximize funnel efficiency. We don't have to worry about retrieving content based on some really sophisticated user model that the ranker just throws away because it doesn't understand why it's good. Also, all of these models are trained on log data, so we minimize training serving skew, and we have really high quality signals. So I think having great understanding of the content and having a great state-of-the-art recommendation system is can really help us match up users and creators with content that will keep everybody inspired.
So Jay, you talk about we use a lot of deep learning methods, right, to create those representations, and deep learning methods are very computationally expensive, right? And we have a huge number of images that we need to retrieve. How can we do this efficiently?
Well, I think that there's a couple of ways. One, the fact that all these representations are learned offline, and so at serving time we can just take these embeddings that carry a great deal of information, and with fairly relatively lightweight models, we can make use of those representations. And also, we've even started kicking the tires. Somebody had a question in one of the sessions earlier about GPU serving. We've even started kicking the tires on that technology because that would really unlock a lot of modeling capabilities that we currently can't do. You can't run a large transformer at serving time, but if we could do GPU serving, maybe we could. So that may unlock some new things we could try.
Yeah, Jay, thank you for talking about how we make recommendations. In addition to recommendation, right, search is another way that we connect our users to great content. Rajat, can you talk about how we use machine learning in our search systems?
Yes, I'd love to. In general, being able to serve fresh creator content presents a technical challenge for search, because search engines are hungry for past engagement data and often memorize past clicked results to build high quality search experiences. When we move to fresh creator-based content, that presents a few challenges. One of them is, given a really broad query and what we know about the user, how can we understand our content well enough to be able to match a pretty underspecified query intent with just a few words with content from creators that we haven't so far gotten engagement for? And so that means we need deep query understanding, we need deep user understanding to understand their intent. And of course, we need deep content understanding, like Jay also mentioned. I'd say the other aspect of this is that people don't come to Pinterest only to discover images. They also want to discover other creators they can follow. They want to discover merchants. They want to discover products. And so this means that we need to be able to model creators and their areas of expertise. If I come to search and I search for homemade pasta dishes or something like that, I'd rather get recommendations from someone who's an expert at this, who's a chef that does this. And so how do we model that area of expertise is another new interesting problem.
Yeah, in our content ecosystem, right, we have creators, we have pinners, and we really want to create a community, right, of creators and the pinner that interact with each other and also brainstorm ideas. The next question, right, is how do we create this community, right, of creator and pinners, right, who have a lot of communication and a thriving ecosystem? Dylan, do you want to start?
Yeah, so I can try to talk from HomeFeed perspective. So HomeFeed is the heart for the content distribution as well as creation. In order to build this thriving community, it is very important that we can address it from multiple dimensions. And the two other areas I want to talk about. The first is that we need to think about HomeFeed as a marketplace. So HomeFeed is not only the home for pinners, it is also the home for creators, advertisers, shoppers, merchants, etc. So it is very important that when we actually try to recommend HomeFeed content, think about the utilities we need to think about from multi-dimensions. We have a very sophisticated multi-objective optimization framework that enable us to actually address it from multiple angles and try to understand the utility and benefit from multiple parties. So that's the first thing we need to do. And in it, we actually baked into the creator utility, which is try to understand creator long-term retention and their benefit. So the second angle we need to think about is about building this community. So this means that we need to bake into the action that people can easily take. Right now, it is a follow action. So follow, if you think about it, it could be a short-term action where people just follow another creator, but it could have long-term impact. So we really need to understand this impact, both from pinner's perspective and from creator perspective. From pinner's perspective, it means that if you follow someone, you might see their content continuously going forward. From creator, it could be that they have a thriving community, they're very happy, they come back, create again. So those kind of value really matters for us, because it means that we need to bake into our recommender system and eventually bake into their behavior. And that's how we can help with this creator community.
Yeah, Dylan, you talk about we have utilities for pinners, utilities for creators, and they have their objectives. Are their objectives aligned, or they are slightly different? And if they are different, how do we make a great trade-off?
So yeah, I don't think they will be perfectly aligned. Otherwise, we wouldn't need this multi-objective optimization. It is important that we try to address the marketplace from different parties' perspective. So in order to do that, we can do it from two ways. The first is from measurement. So for the measurement, we need to measure each party, how it is impacted, not only by their own utility, but also by other people's utility function change. And we need to define success measurements for that. And second thing is about our system and technology. We need to set up the system and technology in such a way that this kind of multi-dimensional utility can be actually parallelly running and testing all seamlessly. So this can enable us to understand the long-term impact.
Yeah, in this marketplace, a healthy supply, right, is extremely important. And the creators, right, they create this supply. My next question, right, is how do we incentivize creators to continuously create great content? Jay, do you want to start?
One way is to have an audience for them. And so everything we do to engage our users also kind of feeds our creator community, because creators have choices for how they distribute their content, and we hope that they will come to Pinterest with their best ideas, because we have the most engaged community for them to reach. But also, as Dylan said, like, it's not just about the user side. We think of this as kind of a two-sided recommendation system. So we also think about what can we do, when we're making a recommendation, how likely is this to get engagement from our user? But we can also think about how likely is this to incentivize our creator or keep the creator engaged, right? So they'll want to come back and create more content. And, it is tempting to talk about this as kind of a trade-off, or kind of a how do we balance these two sort of competing objectives. But the way I think about it is, in the long term, maybe in the short term, it can feel like they're competing objectives, but in the long term, it's definitely not. Because as you said, Bi-Chung, it's, an active creator community is good for users and vice versa. Active user community is why creators want to come to Pinterest.
I think in addition to giving creators an audience, probably a more important form of incentive, right, is monetization. The next question is, how does machine learning help creators to monetize their content?
Maybe I can start. So, to monetize content, you need real money to come into the system from somewhere. And so I was thinking there are two sources for this. One is somebody buying something, and so a merchant is paying for it, and that I can talk about. Maybe after this, Xiaofang can talk about ads and how advertisers can monetize as well. So talking about shopping, it's interesting to see how far we have come in 2 years. Shopping at Pinterest was an image-based experience or an image-driven ranking system 2 years ago. And in the past 2 years, we have significantly improved the ability of people to purchase from Pinterest. My favorite stat from last year is that we grew product searches on Pinterest by 20x. And to build all of this, to build a real e-commerce engine, there's a lot of foundational work that goes into it, a lot of it involving ML as well. To start with, you need to build a catalog of millions, tens of millions, maybe hundreds of millions of products in the real world. You need to extract metadata for it, like reviews, shipping speed, price, all sorts of things. And then, given this high quality catalog, you need to build high quality recommendations on top of it. So if I come to search, or if I express interest in something and come to home feed, are we able to recommend interesting products that people might want to purchase? One of the lightning talks talked about some of the shopping-focused technologies that we have built towards this. So the hope is that putting all of this together, we can help our users convert from finding inspirational content from creators into real-world purchases. And when we generate that value, we can pass on that value to creators and monetize that. I think Xiaofang can maybe talk about it next from an ads angle as well.
Sure. So on the ad side, we are working on many things to show the most relevant ads for our users. As one example, as Jay and Rajat also mentioned, better understanding the content of the organic pins and the promoted pins is one of the key things we are trying to do. as if we can put the similar promoted ads adjacent to the similar organic pins, then that can provide a more natural and seamless experience to our users. So this is one area we're working on. Another example is applying more advanced machine learning techniques to find the users' evolving interests on Pinterest and show the relevant ads to them. For example, some of the pinners, they join Pinterest as college graduates. After that, they started their career, make friends, and get engaged. So they become interested in wedding planning on Pinterest. Then later, they get married, buy a house, and become interested in home decor. So after some time later, they have kids, they're interested in DIY, kids' birthday party planning, etc. So this kind of user journey is a typical case on Pinterest. And the sequence-based machine learning techniques can actually capture the user's evolving interests and their shopping intent on Pinterest. So earlier today, my colleagues Yiping and Ning, they presented the user journey modeling work in one of the lightning talks. We actually observed very positive gains from this work for both our pinners and our advertisers. This work is just one example of the machine learning work we apply for a better ads experience for our users.
Yeah, in our ecosystem, right, we have pinner, creator, merchants, and advertisers, right? We have been talking about how to use machine learning to help pinner, help creators, help merchants. Xiaofang, can you talk a little bit more, right? In addition to this user engagement ad prediction, right? What else machine learning can do to help our advertisers?
Yeah, sure. So Pinterest ads platform is basically a marketplace for our users, advertisers or merchants, and Pinterest. So it's a three-way marketplace. For advertisers, we are also working on many things. As one example, the campaign budget optimization is one project we're working on. So by applying different algorithms to find out the most performing ads or ad groups in the same campaign and automatically shifting the budget to those ads or ad groups within the same campaign, we can bring more value and return to our advertisers. On the ads targeting side, we're also applying different machine learning techniques to better understand our advertisers, our ads, their content, to find the most matching user base on Pinterest, to scale their audience and to bring more matching users to their ads. For the new era of creators, we also can find the audience similar to what Jay had mentioned for the community, so that we can match the users to our creators. And in the future, once this community is thrived, we can also have innovative ideas like creators can provide us a list of content they have showing, and we can automatically figure out the best audience to promote their content on Pinterest.
Yeah, thank you for sharing these insights. I would like to open to questions from the audience. If you have any question, right, please put your question into the chat. I will start with the first one. For online model inference, what optimizations do you apply to speed it up? Who want to answer this question?
Yeah, I can take that one. I think as we said earlier, we try to do as much of the computation offline as possible, and that even means when we design the model, we say like this part of the model will run offline and this part of the model will run online. Because really, oftentimes you can partition the model that way without giving up a lot of performance. Because the stuff you really need online is the really fresh signals, the like recent engagement from the user or any kind of recent or new signals that you weren't able to process offline.
I can also add some of the recent work on optimizing online inference. So actually, Ning from earlier, one of the lightning talks mentioned some of the techniques we applied. So in the bottom line, we try to profile the online serving to see where the bottlenecks are. Actually, this can, the optimization can happen from big ideas to small ideas. Big ideas, for example, some of the standard ideas, for example, the vector optimization for DNN models, and to the batch size, and also the small ideas. If we apply, once we profiled the model, we found that the TensorFlow verbal lookup was pretty expensive for operator. And after that, we figured out once we limit that TensorFlow operator to a much local lookup table, that can speed up a lot. So I would say bottom line, profile to see where its bottleneck is.
Okay, let's move on to the next question. What kind of tooling is being provided to facilitate content creation?
I can try to answer that question. So I think this is probably best a question for the creator product team. I'm not from the team. I can mostly say it from an observer perspective. Pinterest have been developing the creator tooling for a really long time. You can see the changes and updates from day to day. So we have optimized the creator flow a lot during the past 1 year, from like uploading video and then polishing the pages, etc. So all of this is actually try to facilitate and lower the bar for creation. We're also having dedicated creator education so that people can know what is the best practice. Besides that, we're going to also launch new product that is try to inspire more people to create. So stay tuned.
Yeah, I think in addition to that, we also provide creator with insights, right? So that creator know what type of content resonate well with the pinners. Let's move on to the next question. What is your vision for sharing organic and ads data to benefit each other? For example, shopping item engagement data is quite sparse, and it is even more sparse for ads. How can we use the organic data to help the ads to improve the user experience? Xiaofang, do you want to address this?
Sure. Actually, I would like to call out the earlier lightning talks again. So actually, we recently applied the users' time sequence events, basically the organic events on Pinterest, to help ads. Think of this. So the users, for example, in the past 1 year, they can take many actions on Pinterest, browse certain content, following some creators, and then doing some search queries. These are all very useful information for ads, even if they are from the organic side. And so we have applying this kind of applying the modeling techniques on this time sequence events data, and that actually we got very positive gains for the ad experience for both the advertisers and our users.
Rajit, do you have anything to add for shopping?
Yeah, I was going to say that one way that we indirectly use organic and ads data together is in our intent understanding. So imagine a user comes to home feed and we want to serve them the best ads. The way we can understand that user is through the organic content they have engaged with. Or if I come to Pinterest search and I search for elegant date outfits, which is a complicated query, How do we understand it? We can understand it again through organic content that we have engaged with. So implicitly, all of the representation learning that was talked about earlier is being driven through a combined sense of engagement. And then that can help us find the best organic and ads results as well.
Let's move on to the next question. Is Pinterest moving away from the original idea where users were creating pins from web images? Who can jump in and answer?
Of course, I'm not an expert at this, but I can give some perspective. I think the bottom line is that web pins are not the best way to create the type of content that is useful for Pinterest users. If I want to show people how to cook something, obviously I'm not gonna, it's not the best experience to write a blog post and then to have a link from Pinterest to a web page where you can sort of consume the content. It would be much better if if a creator can come to Pinterest and create a video or tutorial where they can show people how to cook that thing. And so I wouldn't say Pinterest is moving away from it. I would think of it as an addition where we are giving creators the option to create richer and more native content that serves users' needs better.
Yeah, and I'll just say that, if you remember from Andrew's presentation this afternoon, we have billions of pins and billions of interaction edges between pins and boards, and that's just a huge trove of data that helps us understand all these ideas. So we understand different kinds of clothing style and furniture style and things like that, so that when a creator comes to create some content in that area, we already know, we understand that creator, and we understand what kind of users would be a great match for that creator, would be inspired by their content. So I'm not really qualified to answer this question either, because I'm an engineer and not but I certainly think that Pinterest has got an incredible amount of value from the web pin content that we have.
Yeah, I would also like to add a comment. We are not moving away from saving inspirations, right? But we also want to enable discovery of inspiration. That also is something that we have been doing. But now we also want to enable creation of inspiration. I think we are adding more and more features and functionalities into our platform. Next question: what is new or different about Pinterest Creators Initiative, given that many other platforms are doing the same?
I can try to answer that again, not from a product, from engineering department. So I think with Pinterest, we do have a very unique corpus. We have a very unique community here. We are quite different from social media platform. People come here because of the dream they share, because of the inspiration they want to achieve. So given that, I think our content is quite unique, and the drive behind the creators and the pinners are quite different. And I do believe the bond is also going to be very special if we form it well. So given that, I think our creator initiative is going to be very quality and content driven, and the pinners is also similarly. I hope that people can actually found the community here.
In the interest of time, I'll move on to the next question. How do you respect users' privacy when building ads, retrieval, and the ranking models? For example, iOS would stop ads from tracking users.
I can try to take this one. First of all, Pinterest takes users' privacy very seriously. One of the big initiatives this year and next year is privacy. So we're working closely with our legal team and with our counter, for example, companies like Apple, to figure out the best setup and the common practice, standard practice for users' privacy. For example, the opt-in, opt-out, and privacy restricted data access, the data protection, deletion, etc. So with this, basically we're following the best practice in industry and working with our legals and companies like Apple and Google, etc.
Next question. How do you balance the traffic or blend the ratio between ads and organic? Dylan or Xiaofang?
So I think we need to create a good user experience and understand the user's intention. That is above all the importance. We don't want to artificially set a threshold or a goal for success. The most important thing is to make sure that we can actually create a good user experience. At the same time, if they have a monetizable intent, we can actually lead them to the right place. So given that we are working closely with the ads team, trying to actually optimize what is the best way to actually incorporate the ads together with the organic. Yeah, Xiaofang can definitely add more.
Yeah, when I first joined, one of the early employees of Pinterest, he once mentioned that ultimately we can put 100% of the ads on Pinterest and people still feel inspired. And that's one of the differentiators of Pinterest compared with social media platforms, because ads can feel almost the same if they are relevant. Back to this question, actually our engineering team are working together with data scientists, etc., to figure out the long-term pinner value so that we can understand what is the right engagements from ads and can actually add values to our pinners, so that it's not actually it's not a burden, but actually adding positive values to our users. So this is ongoing work.
Before we close the panel, I would like to ask each of you, what is the biggest ML challenge you are solving? Who want to start? Jay, do you want to start?
Yeah, sure. So I think this, when we, I touched on this earlier, the fact that we'd really like to be able to look at a creator and just know who's going to be inspired by this creator. Or when a creator creates a piece of content, know before we see any interaction with that content, oh, this is the kind of style that so-and-so would really find interesting and would really love. And so, that's a really hard problem. There was a question earlier in the day about, how do you solve the cold start problem? It is a difficult problem to solve, but I'm really encouraged because I think we're making a lot of headway on that. And like I said, it's a kind of everything we do is kind of bootstrapped by this huge graph of ideas and images that we have that we get to work from. So that's the problem that I find most exciting.
I can go next. I want to talk about intent understanding because that is somewhat unique to search. People don't use search like they use most other search engines. They don't have a transactional intent where I want to find this thing or this answer and I'm done. What we see is that very often search queries on Pinterest are followed by other search queries or by other engagement on Pinterest. And so given that many queries on Pinterest are broad when they start out and refine from there, it's a challenge to understand what the intent of the user is, which involves NLP challenges to convert a short text query into intent, but it also involves sequence modeling considerations of given what the user has done over this session or several days, what are they actually trying to accomplish in their life?
Xiaofang?
Sure. For me, the velocity is the biggest thing for me. So I basically went through from the Pinterest model, machine learning models, from linear models to tree models to DL models these days, which every team is working on. But having a solid foundation for the ML training, serving system, and make sure the logged data, the training and serving are using the same data set, using the same code paths, and adding features is easy, and changing the model architecture is easy. I think that's the biggest thing for me. And we have actually evolved multiple iterations of Pinterest machine learning platforms, from handwritten transforms to using, for example, today using TensorFlow or PyTorch as native serving, using log data for training, and etc., etc. So this is the biggest thing for me.
Yeah, I can go next. So for me, it comes back to the marketplace solution. Many people has touched the area, Bitron, Jay, and also there's question regarding how do we blend the ads and organic. It all comes down to how to define the short-term versus long-term wins, and how do we actually measure that success. Like Jay mentioned, it would be good if they can actually align in the long term, but we really need to measure that properly and define it well. So that is the biggest challenge. And I actually also like to hear Bitron's opinion.
Thank you for asking. I'm saving this for the closing remark. Yeah, thank you for the insightful panel discussion. Yeah, I would like to close today's program. And I hope that everyone enjoyed today and are inspired by how machine learning powers Pinterest, right? To continue the machine learning challenges we are solving, I would like to add a few. Right? The first one is representation learning and also foundation models. We have seen a lot of success in this area and also applied in many of our products. However, there's still many opportunities that we can improve. For example, how can we improve accuracy while reducing the cost, which has been a big problem because the models are become bigger and bigger. Second area is how can we optimize for long-term outcome? Supervised learning has been very effective in optimizing for immediate outcome. Right? This is almost like a solved problem. However, how can we optimize for long-term outcome is still quite challenging. There has been a lot of progress in reinforcement learning, causal inference, but there's a lot to be done in this area. A third area would be how can we effectively combine symbolic AI with neural AI? You probably heard about how we use knowledge graph to make our user experience better, right? Knowledge graph can be thought of as one example of symbolic AI that we encode domain knowledge in a graph structure, right? However, in recent years, neural networks has been very effective in predicting user actions and something like that. So I believe an effective combination of these two areas can produce the next breakthrough of the field of AI. So these are the problems for Pinterest and also problem for AI as a whole. Slide, please. Yeah, if you want to learn more about what we do and how we solve these challenging problems, please visit this website, pinterestlabs.com. And next, if you are interested in working with us, please contact us through this email address. With that, I would like to thank all of you for attending today's ML Day program. Have a nice day. Bye.